Soulframe has a ton of cool weapons and packs to try out, so today we're going to talk about 2 game features that will give you access to Soulframe's gear, crafting and factions. When you make a new character in Soulframe, you'll get a weapon and a pack to start the game with. The loadout you get is based on the choice you make in the Choose Your Pack selection. You'll also get some armor, but at the moment armor is purely cosmetic. Preludes 10 promises at least some changes to this, although we don't know yet exactly what those changes will be or how they will work. Expect an armor guide whenever that gets into game. For now, we're going to focus on how to craft all the weapons and packs currently available in Preludes 9, and that starts with your Blacksmith. Tuvalkane is the Blacksmith ancestor you add to your Nightfold through the Steelsinger Fable. You'll need to finish the Torment Stag Fable first, and then go here to pick up an item on the ground. Your Sparrow will lead you from there, and don't worry about dropping the item along the way. You can put it down to fight and then pick it back up to keep progressing the quest. When you finish the Fable, Tuvalkane will appear in your Nightfold and you're ready to start crafting. Your Envoy has a bond with Tuvalkane, and you'll need to increase your bond level in order to craft better quality items. Each item you craft increases the bond, but at the moment, weapons give much more progression than armor does. All packs require bond 3, our current maximum. Starting packs might be an exception to this, but as you'll see later on, switching factions takes long enough that you'll almost certainly want to raise your bond sooner than that anyway. You can also craft duplicates of items you've already made, but this does not give any bond, so until you reach bond 3, you're going to want to focus on crafting new weapons. The weapons you can craft at bond level 1 are Rivet 2, Solos 1, Vasp 4, Thistle, and Odiak, although Odiak will almost certainly be replaced on this list with Gwilyn, the new starting spirit weapon coming in Preludes 10. My guess is that Odiak's bond requirement will be increased, and Gwilyn will be craftable at bond 1, just like the other 2 starting weapons. Either way, you'll only have to craft 3 bond 1 weapons in order to progress to bond 2, so don't stress yourself too much about collecting all of them immediately. That said, your Envoy's level increases as you max out weapons and packs, so you will probably want to craft all of them eventually. To unlock each crafting recipe, you'll first need to gather fragments for that weapon. Rivet and Thistle require 4 fragments, while Solos, Vasp, and Odiak only require 3. As soon as you get 1 fragment, you can go to Tuvalkane to check how many more you need to unlock the recipe. Of the bond 1 weapons, Odiak and Thistle are currently the most time-consuming to get. Thistle fragments are found in enemy loot and in all overworld chests, but the drop rate is not as high as for other fragments. Odiak fragments can be a reward for completing Sparrow's tails, but the drop rate is mediocre for this one too. If you're farming Odiak, keep in mind that the user interface won't always show you when you get an Odiak fragment, so keep checking your inventory. Fortunately, you're going to need to do Sparrow's tails for faction progression anyway, so you'll be making progress with your standing as you farm. Rivet, Vasp, and Solos fragments are found just about everywhere, so these are definitely going to be the easiest bond 1 recipes to unlock early on. Once you have enough fragments to complete a recipe, you're going to need crafting materials. There are many different crafting materials in Soulframe, and their drop tables overlap significantly. This means it can be a bit tricky to farm the specific material you need because it probably shares a drop table with several other materials. Fortunately, the drops are fairly common once you know where to look, so let's cover the most efficient places to farm. The easiest place to farm materials early on is the Undercity of Durmak. The Undercity is a procedurally generated dungeon, and there are 2 reasons it will be a good location for farming early in the game. The first is enemy level. If you enter the Undercity at this location, the enemies should spawn at a level that is easily manageable for a new envoy. This will let you spend more time looting instead of struggling through fights against higher level enemies. There are other entrances to the Undercity, but they will generate enemies at higher levels. The farther away from the starting area you get, the higher level that Undercity's enemies will be, so if you're still low level, be ready for tougher fights. The second reason is that the Undercity spawns lots of chests, weapon racks, boxes, barrels, and balloons. Balloons are especially great for farming because they always drop crafting materials, whereas boxes and barrels only have a chance to drop loot. Weapon racks are the most efficient way to get scrap metal, and chests have a chance to give you fragments in addition to crafting materials. Some materials only drop from higher tier chests, so if you happen to find one of the many Undercity puzzles, take time to unlock the hidden room. You'll almost certainly find a rare chest inside. Another place to look for crafting materials is the Glades of Andrian. The Glades are another procedurally generated dungeon, but here you'll find higher level enemies and fewer balloons and breakables than in the Undercity. The one advantage of the Glades is that you'll often find shrimp inside. Shrimp are these floating enemies that look like big black shrimp holding blue lanterns. They shoot a projectile that does quite a bit of damage, so you'll want to take them out at mid-range and dodge their attacks. I say mid-range and not long-range because when they die, you'll need to run up and grab the lantern before it explodes. If you're too far away, you won't get there in time, or you'll get caught in the blast when you try to pick it up. Shrimp have an extremely high drop rate for some of the less common materials like silestit. If you want to farm shrimp without going into the glades, the swamp here will often spawn 2 of them at night. The best place by far for farming shrimp is actually here, where there will always be several groups of shrimp to kill, but enemies out here are quite a bit tougher. It's probably not a practical option for brand new envoys, but keep this spot in mind as you level up. Finally, there's Fort Curlail. This boxy fort with 4 towers has plenty of enemies, several chests, and a decent number of breakables and weapon racks, making it a solid choice for farming materials. There are a few downsides though. To farm crafting materials in this spot, you'll need to clear out the fort, then relog or zone in and out of an Undercity to refresh the fort, clear out the fort again, and then just repeat that over and over and over. It's a good farm if you have at least 1 pact and weapon leveled up, but it's also mind-numbingly boring. The enemies aren't super high level, but they're high enough to be a bit spicy for a new envoy, especially given how easy it is to aggro a lot of them. Farming the fort is very efficient if you can kill those enemies quickly, but if the fights are taking you a while to finish, then the Undercity or the glades are going to be a better use of your time. That said, the fort's enemy density makes it one of the best places to farm Drax, which can drop from boxes and barrels, but always drop from enemy loot. If Drax are what you're missing, the fort might be worth your time even if the fights are a bit tough. Before we move on, let's talk about joinery. There are 4 types of weapon joinery in Preludes 9, and you're always going to want to use Eldor, which gives you the highest bonus to your weapon. Eldor is not rare enough that you'll need to worry about running out of it, and you'll probably find some while you're farming for the other crafting materials you need. If you find yourself short, rare chests are a good way to get Eldor, but it drops from other sources as well. You can reforge a weapon if you want to change its joinery, but there isn't much advantage to doing this in most cases. Reforging will reset the weapon rank to 0, so you'll have to level it up again, and the materials required for reforging are not strictly less expensive than just crafting a new version of that same weapon, although the recipes do generally require different materials or different amounts of each material. You do not get any bond for reforging, so there are really only 2 situations in which you might want to reforge a weapon. The first has to do with your starting weapon. Your starting weapon comes without any joinery at all. If this is a weapon you enjoy playing, then you might want to reforge it with Eldor to max its DPS. You should compare the crafting and reforging recipes first though, especially if you have enough fragments to make another one. Decide whether you want to craft a new weapon or reforge the one you have based on which crafting materials you have the most of. The second situation in which you might want to reforge a weapon is when the weapon is a quest reward that can't be acquired again. For example, Juniper, the Royal Tines, and Ducalic are all weapons that can only be gotten once, so if you didn't use Eldor the first time you made them, you would need to reforge them to change the joinery. Alright, so now that you have your crafting materials, select the weapon you want to make, select your joinery, and click Assemble. After that weapon's craft time has passed, return to Tuvalkane, go to her Assembled tab, and claim the finished weapon. Your bond will increase when you claim the weapon. You can also rush the item, which causes the crafting to finish instantly. The currency used for this is likely a placeholder for premium currency that will be available when the game launches, so there's currently no way to gain more than the 100 you start the game with. Crafting 3 weapons will get your bond with Tuvalkane to level 2. This will enable you to craft the bond 2 weapons, Unsula, Bog and Myrtle, Oran Umber, and Juniper. Of these, Juniper is the easiest to get, as all you have to do is play music at these 3 locations. Unsula fragments are also quite common, and you might have them already by the time you get Tuvalkane to bond 2. Oran Umber fragments drop from chests and Sparrow tails, and Bog and Myrtle fragments drop from Sparrow tails that end in the Undercity. Crafting 4 more new weapons will get you from bond 2 to bond 3, but you should know that bond progression can be a bit buggy. Rushing an item with the game's special currency used to not give any bond at all, but that has since been fixed. However, it can cause a visual bug with the bond indicator that does not seem to actually interfere with your bond progression. Selling a weapon can cause you to lose bond if the one you sold was not a duplicate, because the game seems to determine your bond based on how many crafted items are in your inventory. Our inventory slots are not limited at the moment, so the best way to play it safe is to just hold on to everything. Bond 3 is the highest level in Preludes 9, so until we get an update for Tuvalkane, you'll be able to craft everything the game has to offer, including pacts, and you won't see your bond meter increase as you craft more items. Every pact except your starting pact must be crafted with Tuvalkane, even the ones you get as quest rewards. At the moment, Tribalt is the only joinery for both pacts and armor, and it's a pretty common drop from chests. I would not be surprised if we get more joineries for packs and armor in the future, so these will probably also be worth reforging in later updates. If you're looking for drop locations for weapons or items I haven't mentioned here, avocot.org is a community project with some really helpful resources for finding what you need. I put a link below. Alright, so what are these Sparrow's tails I keep mentioning? What do they have to do with crafting? And how do you get the other starting packs? It's time to talk about factions. The main enemies in Preludes 9 are known as the Ode, and Soulframe's 3 factions are the Silent Rose, who fight the Ode through sabotage, Alka's Children, who are focused on protecting Midrath from the Ode, and Kith of Kings, who aim to stand and fight as warriors against the Ode. Dev streams have hinted at more types of enemies to come in the future, and I would assume that the factions will eventually have a major role in how the story of the game plays out. But in this video we need to focus on standing, because that's what matters when it comes to items and crafting. Before you can gain standing, you need to formally join your faction. Along with your starting pact and weapon, you'll also get a totem that gives you access to your starting faction. The introductory quests for each faction are fairly simple. You should automatically have a fable called an invitation, which will guide you through entering your faction's enclave. If your starting choice was the Grace theme package with Siren and Thistle, you should do this quest after completing the Torment Stag. The Silent Rose wants you to get some booze that you can loot somewhere around here. Alka's Children wants you to solve a riddle by offering the statue a specific crafting material, and Kith of Kings wants you to defeat a ghost that appears in front of the Enclave at night. Once the challenge is complete, head inside and talk to that faction's representative to formally join their ranks. Your faction representative will also have a shop where you can buy packs and fragments. As you gain ranks, you'll be able to buy more items, but the standing you use to purchase those items is the same standing you'll need to rank up, so it pays to think carefully about what to buy and when. Now that you're an official member of your faction, a faction NPC will spawn near you when you're out in the world. Talking to this NPC will start a quest chain that the completion dialogue calls Sparrow's Tales, although they're also referred to elsewhere as Faction Tales. Completing these quest chains will give you standing. Once you gain 5,000 standing, you won't be able to gain any more until you return to your enclave to rank up. This will spend the standing you have and open up the next tier of shop items for you to buy. There are a few important things for you to know about Sparrow's Tales. First, the amount of standing shown to you at the completion of a tale reflects your rank plus the amount you have to spend. For example, this clip shows me with 20,300 standing, but that's definitely not how much I earned from this faction tale. Instead, the first 20,000 show that I am rank 4 with the Silent Rose, and the remaining 300 is how much I've earned since the last time I ranked up. If I spend my standing to buy an item, the amount I spend will disappear from my running total. The only way to check your standing is to finish a Sparrow's Tale to see this number, or return to your faction enclave and talk to the representative. You'll want to relog after doing this though, as there is currently a bug that causes your faction standing to get stuck when you visit an enclave. The faction NPC that gives you Sparrow's Tales will spawn somewhere near your location. There seem to be several potential spawn points for this NPC, and the game will choose randomly from what's available near you. How much standing you gain from each tale depends on the level of enemies in that tale. Unfortunately, the randomness built into this system makes it very challenging to farm tales at a specific level, because there currently aren't many places in the high-level areas of the map where you can log out and log back in. I'm excited for whatever changes DE implements here. In the meanwhile, if you're looking to do Sparrow's Tale at the highest level possible to increase your standing quickly, here's a technique graciously shared by Fried Roadkill. There's an entrance to the Undercity out here that will let you leave and then return to Midrath, forcing the game to use your current location to regenerate the quest-giving NPC. This will only work if you do not have an active Sparrow's Tale. You cannot abandon a tale in progress, so if you have one going already, you'll need to finish it first. This will cause a spawned NPC to despawn and reappear, so you don't need to worry about getting here before the NPC shows up in your map. In order to access this Undercity entrance, you need to activate 2 pressure plates at the same time. You can do this by inviting a friend, using Siren's decoy to activate one of the plates, or using Orangal's Werewalker to teleport from one plate to another. The positioning is surprisingly forgiving for this. Once you've opened the entrance, just zone in and immediately turn around and head back out. I found that it sometimes takes a while for the NPC to spawn again using this method, so it helps to immediately start running towards one of the places where it can pop up. Every time I've done this myself, he appears near this lake, so I just start running in that direction as soon as I zone out of the Undercity. I know this all sounds a bit confusing and tedious, and standing currently is quite the grind, but DE has stated several times that they're still developing the faction system. Think of this as a placeholder while they're working on updates. Anyway, back to crafting. There are 3 faction ranks that are especially important when it comes to crafting. At rank 2, you can purchase the starting pack for your faction. You'll already have the pack for the faction you started with, so this only becomes relevant after you've switched to a new faction. Fortunately, the starting packs are very inexpensive to purchase at only 100 standing each, and it's possible, although not guaranteed, to get them as a rank up reward. At rank 3, you can purchase Sacred Shimmer, which is the crafting material you need to make totems, the item that lets you switch to a different faction. You'll need 2 of these to make the totems for the 2 factions you didn't start with. You can only be in one faction at a time though, so you probably want to finish ranking up before you swap. At rank 5, you can purchase another pact from your faction. Currently Ode Tempest for Silent Rose and Alka's Children, and Mora's Hand for Kith of Kings. Mora's Hand seems to be a guaranteed rank up reward at level 5, but you'll actually need to buy Ode Tempest for 3,000 standing. So to get all these items, you're going to be doing a lot of Sparrow's Tales. Swapping factions is pretty simple. Equip that faction's totem, enter the Enclave, and pledge to join. But there's a 1-week cooldown for faction swapping, so it's worth planning out how you want to progress through the ranks. My personal tip here is to get enough standing to buy both of your Sacred Shimmers from your first faction before you swap. That way you don't have to level both Alka's Children and Silent Rose past level 2 if you don't want to. Personally, I'd leave Alka's Children after getting Oselda and then come back to it later, since I'm guessing they will eventually have their own unique rank 5 pact. If you leave a faction and return to it later, you do resume at the same rank you were when you left, so don't worry about losing progress. The last thing I want to mention here is that there is armor to craft in Soulframe, but this is definitely changing in Preludes 10, which is hopefully only a few weeks away. In Preludes 9, armor is purely cosmetic and doesn't provide much bond with Tuvalkane, so just craft what you like when you have the materials to spend on it. We'll definitely take a closer look at armor in Preludes 10. Thanks again to Fried Roadkill for the faction grinding tip, and to Pritch for many crafting clips. If you found this video helpful, please consider giving it a like and subscribe for more Soulframe content. Until next time, happy hunting!